This is a mistake. We need help and we're not afraid to admit it. 4 years ago, we dug this pond behind us and we thought that was going to be an easy project. Dig a pond, it'll fill with water, and we'll have a nice, beautiful pond coming onto our property. But it didn't work out that way, did it?
No, it didn't work out that way. And we did that because it was a low depressed area. When we bought it, it was already holding water, so it made sense to us, but obviously we didn't know.
Now, a lot of people out there that have dug ponds are going to say you didn't do your homework, and they're exactly right. We thought that it would hold water. We didn't test the soil, and we've done some things since then, or at least one big thing since then, which was apply a product called Damn It. We applied that on the front half of the pond, and it's a polymer, and what it's supposed to do is sink to the bottom and seal the pond. It's a very expensive product. We don't know if it worked. We think it might have helped, but we didn't seal this part of the pond, this other half of the pond, because we just didn't have confidence that spending that extra money was what we needed to do. So we took a pause and we wanted to see if this summer's rains would fill the pond and keep it full. But we're in a drought here in North Florida, like a 2-year drought. This pond should be 12 to 14 foot deep, and in the center out there, it might be a foot deep. So we reached out to a company called Natural Waterscapes, and we gave them our soil profile. And most all land in the United States has been mapped for the different types of soil. So when we bought this property, we actually had an environmental study done on that, and that included a soil profile. And so we know what the soil is called where this pond was dug. And in addition, they had access to some other maps as well. So they did a complete data soil analysis. We didn't actually send them soil. They just used the maps that were available. And what they determined was, at best, our soil is 35% clay. That's at best. So without them having the actual soil, they don't know. So the next step to determine how much clay is in your soil and if your soil can stop water from passing through it is they have these bucket tests. So they sent us the bucket test, and the bucket comes with what's called bentonite clay. And bentonite clay is a clay that expands, and if you mix this with your soil that may not hold water, this will make your soil hold water. You have to determine how much bentonite clay you need per square foot. So they give you different bags. This one is 3 pounds per square foot, and this one is 5 pounds per square foot. So what you do is you fill this bucket, and this bucket has holes in the bottom. You fill this bucket with your dirt about 6 or 8 inches, and then you pick one of these bags of what you think is the one that might be the right amount of bentonite to mix with your dirt. In our case, they figure 4 pounds per square foot. Mix it in this bucket, about 6 to 8 inches in here, and then pack it. Then you fill this bucket with water. In 72 hours, you check and you see what the water level is. And depending on how much the water has fallen inside the bucket, and if the bottom of the bucket is wet, that tells you if you have mixed the right amount of bentonite clay with your soil. If you haven't mixed it, let's say we tried 3 pounds per square foot, then you would do another test with 5 pounds per square foot. And from that, you would determine what is the amount of bentonite that you need to line the bottom of your pond to keep it from leaking. I do want to add that Brooke and Jesse out there at Natural Waterscapes have been phenomenal to work with. We're going to be a partner with them going forward, so we're going to provide a link down below. We'll be an affiliate with them, but also you can look at our soil profile and see what they did to analyze it. But where I'm standing right now is what I would call our yellow clay area. And I'm real interested to see, because I thought that this would be some of our best clay, and I'm real interested to see if this clay can hold water with less bentonite in it. Hopefully the camera picks it up, but that yellow clay kind of gradually goes into a red clay area here. So this bank here is red clay, and I don't know how much water that holds, so we're going to do a separate test on the yellow clay and the red clay. I don't think they're the problem. I think the problem is over there where it's a little more sandy. So the last soil profile I think we have, and again, they analyzed it and they said, and we'll put it on the screen, I can't remember the exact words, but we don't have one continuous soil profile across the bottom of this pond, and that's where the bucket test comes into play, because they can only analyze with the data that they have. Now we'll have a little bit better data. But over here, I think, is a soil profile that's really hurting us with the pond. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of it and show you what I think our problem is. I think this is our problem. in this corner and on the other end where we applied the Dammit, I think our soil is like that. It's just sandy with very little clay in it. And I think those are the areas that need the most bentonite. But what we don't want to do is go through the expense of putting bentonite in different layers in different areas of the pond. Meaning if that clay is better over there, we don't want to do 1 pound per square foot and over here do 4 pounds per square foot. We want to find the worst area and then treat the whole pond as if it was all bad. I'm in the bottom of the pond. I haven't been here in a while since I put in this marker, but the bottom feels very squishy. It feels like clay. And like we said earlier, it's been treated up to this point. This mark right here is 4 foot. What I'm going to do is put a lower mark here. But right now, I'd say I got 1 foot of water. And the pond bottom is not perfectly level. It's going to get a little bit deeper that way. Can't really sample what's under my feet, but it's squishy and I can dig down probably 8 or 10 inches. So I'm going to remark this and then we'll get our soil samples. So I just marked the 2 foot mark here and we're about 1 foot deep. Optimally, I think 4 or 5 feet would be perfect for this pond. And once we get it to hold 4 or 5 feet of water, then we can start putting fish in here, stocking it with fish, and start running a fish feeder and all the things that we want to do. I'd hate to have a bunch of big bass or catfish in here and then they just die off. Now, one solution to a pond that leaks is to continually add water to it. But what we don't want to do is pump water out of the aquifer, possibly cause sinkholes on our property or someone else's property, then put it into this pond, it leaks out through the bottom, and do that continuously. We do feel that occasionally, even after we get the pond sealed, we're going to have to add water to this pond because of the evaporation rate. This is sunny Florida, and we estimate we would lose 1 inch or so a day on a really hot day. And if you don't get replenished after a few weeks by rain, we may have to add water to the pond. But it just doesn't make sense to pump water into a leaky pond, so we got to get this pond fixed. Another thing I wanted to point out, even the clay that we have that I think is good has these pebbles in it, and you can see where the rain has washed down and made some of those pebbles, you know, be like a little windrow there, and each one of them could be a leak.
It's low, but it's still high enough for Bella to swim.
We're going to go get some of that sandy soil, we're going to get some of this clay soil, and we're going to go on the north end of the pond where it's sandy as well. That'll give us 3 different soil profiles, and we're going to get a full bucket. That way we can do multiple tests back at home where it'll be a more controlled environment.
I just want to reiterate the fact that we're actually standing in the pond. That there have been times that we couldn't have stood here without swimming. Sad.
Rather than just scoop off the top here, I'm going to actually use post hole diggers and kind of go in and get a deeper profile, because once we determine how much bentonite clay we need, we have to till it in. So we're going to have to get this pond completely dry, bring the tractor with the tiller down here, and after we've spread 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds per square foot of bentonite, we then have to till it in. A lot of things that you would get off the surface here would be wash off of the side. So I want to make sure I get what's no kidding down here in the bottom of the pond. I can tell you with just using these post hole diggers for a short amount of time that there is some clay material here, because if this was sand, it would be much easier to dig. I would have already dug a foot by now, but I'm having to chip away at it. That tells me our clay content might be a little higher than we thought it was in the bad areas of the pond, and we wouldn't have to use as much bentonite. Again, the folks out at Natural Waterscape, they have been phenomenal talking me through this process. Talked to them for a long time on the phone, and they actually can provide the bentonite here. And we got an initial estimate that we need around $7,500 worth of bentonite. And then that's us doing all the work. Now, we did get an estimate from a local guy, an excavator, and he has some clay that he feels would seal this pond, and he's right at $10,000 to bring the clay in. If we get the pond dry, he'll reshape the bottom, put the clay in, and pack it with a bulldozer. The problem with that is we don't know if his clay is any better than the clay that we have, so we're going to look at all options. And the one that's on the table now is taking our existing soil, adding bentonite to it, and they assure us that, you know, 6 to 8 inches of soil mixed with the right amount of bentonite and then the pressure of the water that the pond won't leak. If you've got a leaky pond, I definitely recommend reaching out to them. They are experts in this field, But I think trying to figure it out yourself when you're not an expert in this stuff is just very expensive. Just an unofficial test, and this is a bad area of the pond, it's holding together. Now it's a little damp and it's dry on top, but it does hold a ball. So there is some clay content here, and that gives me hope. Now these rocks are not natural rocks for the area. We actually use these to line the culvert, and then we got a big rain after we paid all that money to get that done, and they all washed into the pond. So these rocks are not the problem. So what I'm gonna do is just collapse the side of this hole and just get enough dirt here to fill that bucket. That'll give us a nice soil profile. Can't have me doing all the work. Got to get Miss Piney Grove involved here too.
Well, Miss Piney Grove actually said when he grabbed the post hole diggers, do you want me to do that? And of course, he said no.
And of course I said, come on down, babe. Dig this hole with me. And she ran the other way.
We all know that's not true.
That's not true at all. She's willing to get her hands dirty. She wants this pond fixed as bad or worse than I do. No kidding, every time we come down the driveway when we haven't been at the property for a while, our hearts sink because we so passionately want a pond here. Because once we get this pond fixed, it's really gonna take, I don't know, it's gonna take a lot of pressure off of us. It's just gonna make us feel better about the decision here. And to add to the fact that Deb here is willing to take one for the team, we didn't catch it on video, and I'm laughing now because she's okay, but she fell down the side of the bank over there by my truck and slid into the pond. What do you got to say about that, babe?
I own my clumsiness, but I did kind of hurt myself.
But you're good now?
Yeah, I'll be all right. I'll be sore tomorrow, though. Fell on my old lady hip and my bad hand.
So what do we say about that in the country? Rub some dirt in it, you'll be okay.
So much sympathy. So much sympathy.
As I went deeper there, I started getting what I feel like is more concentration of clay. So I'm just real interested in where this pond is leaking. I don't think it's leaking right here. All right, next bucket will come from this yellowish clay area. I'm gonna, I guess, instead of get a separate red clay and yellow clay, kind of get where it's kind of merged here, get a good test sample here. Again, clear off the top in case there's any of that dammit product or anything left, and then go down and get my sample deeper than this top layer. Say right now this is easier to dig, but I think this is silt that ran off the bank that created those pebbles we showed you earlier. So I want to get below that silt and get to the true bottom of the pond. This is definitely sandy, but I think it's silt. I feel like the post hole diggers are starting to hit some good clay once I get this 6 inches off the top. I think that's the true bottom of the pond there. I'm going to get my sample from there.
Would you like me to help, Brad? Would you like
Yes. Could you please help me, Deb, please? I'm getting tired, I ain't gonna lie. Go down and just loosen that up.
Move, Bell Bell.
All right, let me get that out so you can go a little deeper there. Yeah, actually, I'm already surprised at how sandy it is.
I mean, you can physically see the sand.
I thought this would be better than what I already did. Now this is damp because the water level was here a couple weeks ago, but it's not holding together like it did over there. So once again shows that you can have different profiles in just a short area or distance from each other. I really thought this was going to be gooey yellow clay.
Not gooey, not yellow, not clay.
No, it's very sandy.
A skinny hole.
That's a mighty fine hole you got there, Deb.
Thank you. It's a little bit of a dirty hole, but
I don't know if that's going to make the edit.
probably not.
Totally shocked by this soil profile, and it will hold together. You can make a dirt clod and throw it at your best friend, but
Don't throw dirt at your best friend. That's just mean.
But it's not what we thought it would be. That's good, babe. Someone's got to carry that up the hill.
Well, I've already proven that I'm not graceful going down the hill. I don't think I'll be graceful going up it with a bucket of dirt.
I've dug down here and got all the spoils or the silt that's washed down the bank off here. And this is the problem area, we think, but I almost feel like the clay is decent here. So we're getting a lot of surprises and getting a lot of knowledge about our soil that we probably should have learned 4 years ago. Now, a big part of this process in the bucket test, and we'll show you all of that, is you've got to incorporate that bentonite with the soil. You can't just have clumps of bentonite throughout the soil, or else you'll have leaks around those areas of bentonite. So we're probably going to have to dry the soil, mix it with the bentonite, and pack it in the bottom of the bucket, the test bucket. I don't think we'll be able to use it as is here. It'll be the same soil. We'll just have to dry it out on a board or something. I think there's some clay in it. I just don't think there's enough clay in it. That's that gooey clay you want. So
yeah.
the problem may be you got pockets of sand and pockets of clay. You don't have a continuous bottom of clay. Deb wants to make sure nobody trips in the hole.
Nothing. We got all kinds of critters that come here and drink from this, and they're used to it. They're not used to a 3-foot hole.
That girl's crazy. Ain't no deer gonna trip in a 3-foot hole.
They won't now because there won't be one.
We're gonna spread it out and let it dry in the sun.
So now that we have it spread out, you can definitely see the different colors of the different compositions of the dirt, all from the same 50 by 100 foot area. Isn't that crazy?
And that's gonna be it for step 1.